The space station looked like a broken toy floating in the darkness. Jake Morrison watched it through the window of his ship and felt his stomach turn. 3 years of war had left marks on everything in space. The station called Crossroads had been white once. Now it was gray and covered with blast marks from laser fire. "Commander Morrison, we're getting close to the docking bay," said Lisa Parker from her seat next to him. She was his second officer and the best pilot he had ever worked with. Her hands moved over the controls like she was playing music. Jake nodded and looked at his watch. In 2 hours, he would sit across from the aliens who had been trying to kill him for 3 years. The Zephyrians wanted to talk about peace. Jake did not trust them, but Earth needed this war to end. The war had started by accident. The human ship Aurora had been exploring new worlds when they found the Zephyrian planet. The crew thought it was empty, so they landed to collect samples. What they did not know was that the planet was sacred to the Zephyrians. It was where they had their babies. The humans brought something with them that day. In the cargo hold, the Aurora, some mushrooms from Earth had grown in the dark, warm space. When the ship landed, the mushrooms spread their tiny seeds into the air. The Zephyrians called these seeds poison. Within days, thousands of young Zephyrians were dead. The adult aliens found the mushroom seeds everywhere. They thought the humans had done this on purpose. They thought it was an attack. Jake remembered the first battle. The Zephyrian ships looked like giant insects made of metal and living tissue. They could fix themselves when damaged and grew new weapons during fights. Human ships were different. They were made of steel and computers, built to last and fight hard. The aliens were stronger in numbers, but humans were good at surviving. Earth had taught them well. Every human carried weapons and knew how to use them. Every human ship could become a weapon if needed. "We're docked, Commander," Lisa said, breaking his thoughts. "The Zephyrians are already on board. They're waiting." In meeting room 7, Jake stood up and checked his uniform. He wore no weapons because this was supposed to be a peace talk. Still, he felt naked without his gun. Lisa followed him through the corridors of the station. Other humans and aliens walked past them, all looking nervous. The meeting room was large and round with a table in the center. On one side sat 3 humans, including Jake and Lisa. On the other side sat 3 Zephyrians. Jake had never seen one up close before. They looked like giant insects, but they walked on 2 legs like humans. Their skin was green and shiny like armor. They had 4 arms and eyes that looked like black jewels. When they breathed, Jake could see air sacs on their necks fill and empty. The leader of the Zephyrians was called War Prime Cathvar. He was bigger than the others and had scars on his face. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Humans," Cathvar said, "you have poisoned our children. You have brought death to our sacred world. Why do you come to us now? And speak of peace?" Jake kept his voice calm. "We never meant to hurt your people. What happened on your world was an accident. We did not know about the mushrooms." The War Prime's eyes seemed to glow brighter. "You lie. These poison seeds you carry, they kill everything. That is not human. You use them as weapons. You are weapons yourselves." "That's not true," Lisa said, leaning forward. "We don't even know why the mushrooms hurt your people. On Earth, we eat mushrooms. They're food to us." One of the other Zephyrians made a sound like a hiss. "Impossible. The death spores kill any living thing. No creature can survive them." Jake felt the talk going wrong. The aliens did not believe them. How could he explain that humans were different? On Earth, people ate things that would kill other animals. They lived in places that would kill other creatures. But to the Zephyrians, this made humans seem like monsters. "War Prime," Jake said, trying one more time. "We want peace. We can find a way to clean the mushrooms from your world. We can make sure this never happens again." Cuthbert stood up. His full height was almost 7 feet. "You cannot clean what you have done. The poison grows stronger every day. It spreads to other worlds. Soon, the entire galaxy will be dead because of you." As he spoke, the Zephyrian began to breathe harder. His neck sacs filled and emptied faster. Jake noticed that the other aliens were doing the same thing. They were getting sick. "The air," one of the Zephyrians said in panic. "The air is poison. The humans have poisoned the air." Jake looked around the room. The air seemed fine to him. Lisa looked fine too. But the Zephyrians were falling to their knees, choking and gasping. "We need to get them help," Lisa said, reaching for her communicator. "No," Cuthbert said, fighting to stand. "This proves what I have said. You are poison. You are weapons that walk and breathe. The galaxy will never be safe while humans live." War Prime and his companions left the room, supported by their guards. Jake watched them go and felt the weight of failure on his shoulders. The war would continue. More people would die. And all because of some mushrooms that had grown in this sin. "Dark. Commander," Lisa said softly, "what do we do now?" Jake looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, fleets of ships were preparing for the next battle. Somewhere out there, the mushrooms were still growing and spreading. And somewhere out there, the aliens were planning to destroy humanity to save the galaxy. "We go back to Earth," he said. "We tell them the talks failed. We get ready for the next fight." As their ship left the station, Jake wondered if the war would ever end. The Zephyrians saw humans as living weapons. Humans saw Zephyrians as cruel aliens who would not listen to reason. Both sides were trapped by fear and misunderstanding. The mushrooms that started it all continued to grow in the darkness of space, waiting for the next world to find them. And the war that began with an accident would continue until one side was completely destroyed. Jake Morrison did not know that in 3 more years, the war would end not with weapons or treaties, but with a simple meal that would change everything forever. Dr. Ryan Blake held this small glass container up to the light. Inside, a piece of alien tissue floated in green liquid. The tissue was dead, but it still scared him. This was part of a Zephyrian weapon that had killed hundreds of human soldiers. Months had passed since the failed peace talks. Jake Morrison was dead now, killed when his ship exploded during the Battle of Titan's Edge. Ryan had been Jake's friend since college. Now he spent his days in a lab, trying to understand the enemy. That had killed him. "Doctor, you need to see this," said his assistant, Amy Chun. She was young and smart, fresh out of school when the war started. Now she looked tired and older than her years. Ryan walked over to Amy's workstation. On the screen, he could see tiny shapes moving around. They looked like seeds, but they glowed with a soft blue light. "What am I looking at?" Ryan asked. "Mushroom spores," Amy said. "But not from Earth. These came from the Zephyrian weapon we captured last week. Doctor, I think the mushrooms are changing." Ryan felt his blood grow cold. The mushrooms that started the war were bad enough. If they were getting worse, the entire galaxy was in danger. "Show me the data," he said. Amy pulled up charts and numbers on her screen. The original mushrooms from the Aurora were toxic to Zephyrians, but harmless to humans. These new ones are different. They're 10 times more poisonous, and they're spreading faster. Before Ryan could respond, alarms started ringing throughout the lab. The red lights on the walls began flashing. Over the speakers, a voice announced, "All personnel to emergency stations. We have incoming enemy ships." Ryan and Amy ran to the windows. Outside, they could see the stars being blocked by huge shapes. Zephyrian bioships were approaching the research station. Their living hulls pulsed with light as they prepared their weapons. "Dr. Blake to the bridge," came a voice over the intercom. "Captain Parker needs you immediately." Ryan had heard of Lisa Parker. She was the pilot who had been with Jake Morrison during the peace talks. After Jake's death, she had been promoted to captain of the battleship Endurance. Now she was here, probably to evacuate the research station. Ryan grabbed his most important files and ran to the bridge. He found Captain Parker standing over a large table covered with star maps. She looked up when he entered. "Dr. Blake," she said, "we need to talk. The Zephyrians are moving toward a planet called Kepler 442b. Our scouts say something strange is happening there." Ryan looked at the map. Kepler 442b was marked with red symbols, meaning it was dangerous. "What kind of strange?" "Both human and Zephyrian forces have tried to land there. None of them came back. The few messages we received before losing contact mentioned some kind of plague." Lisa touched a button, and the star map changed to show pictures of the planet. Ryan could see green and blue continents, but there was something wrong. Large areas of the planet glowed with the same blue light Ryan had seen in the mushroom spores. "We think the mushrooms have taken over the entire planet," Lisa said. "The Zephyrians call it the Poison Garden. We need to get down there and find out what's happening." Ryan shook his head. "Captain, if the mushrooms are as dangerous as my research suggests, landing there would be suicide." "Maybe," Lisa said, "but we need to know what we're dealing with. The Zephyrians are planning something big. If they're willing to risk their own people to get to that planet, it must be important." The ship shook as Zephyrian weapons hit the shields. Through the windows, Ryan could see the alien ships getting closer. Their bioweapons were charging up, ready to fire again. "All right," Ryan said, "but I'm coming with you. If we're going to study these mushrooms, you'll need a scientist who understands them." Lisa smiled for the first time since Ryan had met her. "Good. Get your gear. We leave in 10 minutes. The trip to Kepler 442b took 6 hours. Ryan spent the time reading reports from the failed missions to the planet. The stories were all the same. Teams would land, send 1 or 2 messages, then go silent. The lucky ones managed to get back to orbit before their ships stopped working. When they arrived at the planet, Ryan understood why the missions had failed. The entire world was covered in a blue glow. From space, it looked beautiful, but Ryan knew that glow meant death for most living things. "Look at that," said Amy, who had insisted on coming with them. She pointed to an area near the planet's north pole. "Those aren't natural formations." Ryan looked where she was pointing. Huge structures rose from the planet's surface, but they were not made of metal or stone. They looked like giant mushrooms, some of them miles high. Their caps glowed with the same blue light that covered the planet. "My God," Ryan whispered. "They're not just growing, they're building." The landing was rough. The planet's atmosphere was thick with spores that made their ship's engines work poorly. When they finally touched down, Ryan could hear the hull of the ship creaking and groaning. The mushrooms were already trying to break it down. "We have maybe 2 hours before the ship is too damaged to fly," Lisa said. "Make them count." Ryan put on his protective suit and stepped outside. The air was thick and green, full of floating spores. But through his suit's filters, he could breathe normally. Around him, the landscape was covered in mushrooms of every size and color. Some were small and looked like the ones from Earth. Others were huge, with caps the size of buildings. All of them glowed with that deadly blue light. Between them, Ryan could see the bones of animals and the remains of alien technology. "Doctor," Amy called from near a cluster of purple mushrooms, "you need to see this." Ryan walked over to where Amy was standing. On the ground, he could see the remains of a Zephyrian soldier. The alien's armor was half dissolved and mushrooms were growing from inside the body. "It's not just killing them," Amy said. "It's using them. The mushrooms are feeding on the aliens and growing stronger." Ryan took samples of everything he could find. The original mushrooms from the Aurora had been simple Earth fungi. These new ones were something else entirely. They had adapted to the alien environment and become something new and terrifying. As they worked, Ryan noticed something strange. The mushrooms seemed to avoid the areas where he and his team were working. When he stepped near a cluster of glowing fungi, they would dim their light and pull back. "They're afraid of us," he said to Lisa. "What do you mean?" "The mushrooms. They're not trying to attack us. They're trying to stay away from us." Lisa looked around at the alien landscape. Why would they be afraid of humans? Ryan thought about it as they collected their samples. The mushrooms were deadly to Zephyrians and most other alien species. But humans were different. On Earth, people had been eating mushrooms for thousands of years. Their bodies knew how to handle fungal toxins. "Maybe," Ryan said slowly, "we're not their victims. Maybe we're their predators." The trip back to the ship was quiet. Ryan's mind was full of new questions. If the mushrooms were afraid of humans, what did that mean for the war? Could humanity's ability to survive the deadly fungi be turned into an advantage? As their ship lifted off from the poison garden, Ryan looked back at the glowing planet. Somewhere down there, the mushrooms were growing and spreading. Soon, they would reach other worlds. The Zephyrians thought humans had created these weapons on purpose. But what if the truth was even stranger? What if humans were the only species in the galaxy that could survive what was coming? What if the war would end not because of weapons or treaties, but because humanity was the only hope for stopping the spread of the deadly fungi? Ryan did not know the answers yet, but he knew one thing for certain. The next time he met with the Zephyrians, he would have something to show them that would change everything. The war had started with a misunderstanding about mushrooms. Maybe it would end with the truth about what humans really were. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiance and watched the enemy fleet approach. There were hundreds of Zephyrian ships, their biohulls glowing with weapon energy. This was the largest attack the aliens had ever launched against Earth. "Admiral," said her communications officer, "we're getting reports from all across the solar system. The Zephyrians are hitting Mars, Jupiter Station, and the mining colonies. This is it. This is their final push." Kate nodded. She had expected this day for months. The Zephyrians called it Operation Cleansing Fire. They planned to destroy all human worlds before the mushroom plague could spread further. The aliens truly believed that humans were biological weapons that would poison the entire galaxy. "All ships, prepare for battle," Kate ordered into her communicator. "We hold the line here. We protect Earth." The battle began with a flash of light that lit up the darkness of space. Human ships fired their laser weapons, while Zephyrian bioships shot streams of living acid. The space around Earth's moon became a war zone of explosions and dying ships. Kate watched her fleet fighting with everything they had. The humans were outnumbered 3-1, but they were fighting for their home. Every ship that fell took several alien vessels with it. "Admiral," called her weapons officer, "we're losing ships faster than we can replace them. At this rate, we'll be overrun in 2 hours." Kate felt the weight of command on her shoulders. Millions of people on Earth were counting on her to stop the alien invasion, but the numbers were against them. The Zephyrians had more ships, more weapons, and they could repair their biohulls during battle. "Target their command ship," Kate ordered. "If we can take out their leader, maybe we can break their formation." The Defiance turned toward the largest Zephyrian vessel. It was a living mountain of flesh and metal, covered in weapons and glowing with bioluminescent patterns. This was the ship of War Prime Kethfer. The alien leader who had sworn to destroy humanity dot as the Defiance approached. The enemy command ship fired everything it had. The human battleship's shields flared and sparked under the assault. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as systems began to fail. "We're losing power," reported the engineering officer. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Life support is failing." Kate felt the ship shudder around her. They were losing the battle, but she was not ready to give up. All remaining power to weapons. One last shot. The Defiance fired its main cannon directly at the Zephyrian command ship. The beam of energy cut through the alien vessel's biohull like a sword through flesh. The enemy ship began to fall toward the moon, leaking atmosphere and crew. But the victory came at a cost. The Defiance was dying too. Its engines were dead, its shields were gone, and it was falling toward the lunar surface just like the enemy. "Ship, all hands, prepare for crash landing," Kate announced. "Emergency stations." The impact threw Kate against the wall of the bridge. When she woke up, the ship was silent, except for the sound of emergency power systems. Half of her crew was dead or injured. The other half was working frantically to seal hull breaches and restore life support. "Admiral," said Dr. Ryan Blake, who had been on the ship to analyze captured alien technology, "we have a problem." The Zephyrian command ship crashed about. "A mile from here. Their survivors are heading this way." Kate pulled herself to her feet. Her left arm was broken, but she could still fight. How many? Maybe 30 aliens, including their war prime. They're armed and angry. "We have about 20 people who can still fight." Kate looked around the damaged bridge. This was not how she had planned to end her career. Trapped on the moon with a broken ship and enemy soldiers coming to kill them all. "Get everyone to the lower decks," she ordered. "We'll make our stand in the cargo bay. At least there we'll have room to maneuver." As her crew prepared for the final battle, Kate thought about the war that had brought them to this point. It had started with an accident and grown into a nightmare that threatened to destroy both species. Now it would end with a fight to the death on the cold surface of the moon. The Zephyrians attacked an hour later. They came through the hull breach like a wave of green death, their weapons firing streams of bioacid. Kate and her crew fought back with everything they had, but the aliens were stronger, and better equipped. War Prime Kethver was the last to enter the cargo bay. He was wounded, with one arm hanging useless at his side, but his eyes still burned with hatred for humanity. When he saw Kate, he raised his weapon. "Human Admiral," he said in his grinding voice, "you have fought well. But now you die, and with you dies the threat to all life in the galaxy." Kate faced him with her sidearm in her good hand. "We never wanted this war. We're not the monsters you think we are." "You are poison," Kethvar replied. "You carry death with you wherever you go. The galaxy will be clean when your species is gone." The battle was brief and brutal. Kate's crew fought with the desperation of cornered animals, but they were overwhelmed. One by one, the humans fell until only Kate, Dr. Blake, and 3 others remained. That was when the life support system finally failed completely. The air. Recyclers stopped working, and the emergency power went out. The cargo bay was filled with darkness and the sound of everyone struggling to breathe. "The air," gasped one of the Zephyrians. "We need air." Kate realized that both sides were now trapped together. The humans and aliens who had been trying to kill each other moments before now faced the same enemy, suffocation. Without working life support, they would all die within hours. "War Prime," Kate said, her voice echoing in the darkness. "We can work together to fix the life support, or we can all die here." There was silence for a long moment. Then Kethver spoke, his voice weaker than before. "You would trust the word of an alien who came to destroy your world. Right now, "You're not my enemy," Kate replied. "You're just another person who doesn't want to die." The temporary ceasefire was awkward and fragile. Humans and Zephyrians worked side by side to restore power and air to the damaged ship. They shared tools and knowledge, united by their common need to survive. Dr. Blake worked with a Zephyrian technician to repair the air recyclers. As they worked, Blake noticed something strange. The alien was having trouble breathing, even with the emergency oxygen masks they had found. "Are you all right?" Blake asked. The Zephyrian technician looked at him with large, dark eyes. "The air is wrong. It tastes of death." Blake checked his instruments. The air was fine for humans, but maybe it was different for aliens. He took sample and ran it through his portable analyzer. What he found made him stop working. "Admiral," he called to Kate, "we have a problem. The air recyclers are contaminated with mushroom spores. They're not dangerous to us, but they're slowly poisoning the Zephyrians." Kate looked at the aliens working alongside her crew. They were all showing signs of breathing problems, but they were still working to keep everyone alive. These were supposed to be her enemies, but they were risking their lives to help her people. "Can we clean the air?" she asked. "Not with the equipment we have here," Blake replied. "The spores are too small and too numerous. For humans, they're just a minor irritant. For Zephyrians, they're deadly." Kate realized that even this temporary cooperation was doomed. The very air that kept humans alive was poison to the aliens. No wonder they saw humanity as a biological weapon. In their experience, humans really were toxic to everything around them. As the hours passed, the Zephyrians grew weaker. War Prime Kethver collapsed while trying to repair a power conduit. His warriors gathered around him, their own breathing labored and painful. "We are dying," Kethver said to Kate. "Even your mercy is poison to us." Kate knelt beside the alien leader. Despite everything, she felt sorry for him. He had come here to destroy humanity, but now he was dying slowly from the very air he breathed. "I'm sorry," she said. "We never knew. We never understood how different we are." Kethver looked at her with eyes that were growing dim. "Perhaps that is the tragedy of this war. We are too different to live together, but too similar to stop fighting." As the War Prime closed his eyes, Kate realized that the real battle was not between humans and aliens. It was between understanding and ignorance, between cooperation and fear. And so far, fear was winning. The emergency lights cast strange shadows across the damaged cargo bay. Kate Sullivan sat on the floor, her back against a broken supply crate, watching War Prime Kethver struggle to breathe. The alien leader was dying, and there was nothing she could do to help him. Dr. Ryan Blake was unconscious in the corner, his head bandaged from when a piece of ceiling had fallen on him during the crash. 2 human crew members had died in the past hour, and 3 more were badly injured. The Zephyrians were in even worse shape. The mushroom spores in the air were slowly killing them. "Admiral," whispered Chief Engineer Tom Davis, "the food synthesizers are completely dead. We found some emergency rations in storage, but they're all contaminated with the same spores that are in the air." Kate looked at the packages of food Tom was holding. They were standard military rations, designed to last for years in storage. But like everything else on the ship, they were covered with the tiny blue specks that meant mushroom spores. "How long do we have?" Kate asked. "Maybe 2 days without food," Tom replied. "The Zephyrians have less time. They're getting weaker." By the hour, Kate stood up slowly. Her broken arm throbbed with pain, but she ignored it. She was the ranking officer, and it was her job to keep everyone alive as long as possible. But looking at the contaminated food, she realized they were all going to die on this cold, airless moon. "War Prime," she said, walking over to where Kethvar lay on the floor. "Can you hear me?" The alien leader opened his eyes. They were no longer the bright black jewels she remembered from their first meeting. Now they were dim and clouded with pain. "Human Admiral," he whispered, "why do you speak to me?" "I came here to destroy your world." "Because you're dying," Kate said simply. "And no one should die alone." Kethver tried to sit up, but could not find the strength. "You are strange creatures, you humans. You show kindness to those who would kill you." Kate sat down beside him. "Maybe that's what makes us different from you. We don't see enemies everywhere. We look. But you are enemies," Kethver said. "You poison everything you touch. This air we breathe, it is death to my people. These seeds that follow you, they kill all life except yours." Kate looked at the contaminated food packages. An idea was forming in her mind, something so simple and so obvious that she wondered why she had not thought of it before. "War Prime," she said, "what if I told you that we eat these mushrooms? What if I told you that the spores you call poison are food to us?" Kethver's eyes focused on her face. "Impossible. The death spores kill any living thing." "Not us," Kate sighed. She picked up one of the contaminated food packages. "On Earth, humans have been eating mushrooms for thousands of years. They're not poison to us. They're just food." Dr. Blake was waking up in the corner. He groaned and tried to sit up, holding his bandaged head. "Admiral, what's happening?" "Doctor," Kate called to him, "these emergency rations are contaminated with mushroom spores. Are they safe for humans to eat?" Blake looked confused for a moment, and his eyes cleared. "The spores? Yes, they're harmless to humans. Might taste a bit strange, but they won't hurt us." He paused, looking at the Zephyrians. "But they would be deadly to any alien species." Kate stood up and walked to the center of the cargo bay. All the surviving humans and aliens were watching her. She held up the contaminated food package so everyone could see it. "War Prime," she said, "you believe humans are biological weapons. You think we spread poison wherever we go. But what if you're wrong? What if we're just different?" She tore open the package. Inside was a meal that looked like pasta with mushroom sauce. The sauce was covered with blue specks that glowed softly in the emergency lighting. To the Zephyrians, it looked like a bowl of death. "Admiral," said Ton Davis, "what are you doing?" Kate looked at the food in her hands. She knew this moment would change everything. Either she would prove that humans were not the monsters the aliens thought they were, or she would die trying. "I'm ending this war," she said. Kate took a large bite of the contaminated food. The mushroom spores had made it taste bitter and strange, but it was still recognizable as human food. She chewed slowly, making sure all the aliens could see what she was doing. The Zephyrians watched in horror and fascination. To them, she was eating pure poison. She was consuming the very thing that had killed thousands of their people. War Prime Kethver tried to speak, but no words came out. Kate swallowed the food and took another bite. "On Earth," she said between bites, "we have pizza with mushrooms. We have mushroom soup. We have mushroom salad. What you call weapons, we call lunch." Dr. Blake was staring at her with wide eyes. "Admiral, you're a genius. They think we're biological. Weapons because we can survive what kills them." Kate nodded and took another bite. "Doctor, explain to them how this works." Blake sat up straighter, his scientist's mind working despite his injuries. "War Prime, humans evolved on a world full of things that would kill most species. We eat plants that are poisonous to other animals. We drink alcohol that would be deadly to most life forms. We breathe air that has germs and bacteria that would kill aliens. But we're not weapons," Kate added, finishing the contaminated meal. "We're just survivors. Earth is a dangerous place, so we learn to live with danger." War Prime Kethfor was staring at Kate as if she had just performed a miracle. You ate the death spores. You consumed the poison that killed our children. It's not poison to us, Kate said gently. It's just food, a little bitter but edible. The alien leader struggled to sit up. His warriors helped him, their own breathing still labored, but their eyes bright with understanding. You mean, Kethver said slowly, that your people did not attack our breeding world on purpose? No, Kate said. It was an accident. We didn't know the mushrooms would hurt you. We didn't even know you existed. Dr. Blake pulled out his portable communicator. Admiral, I need to contact the fleet. This changes everything. Kate nodded, but she kept her eyes on War Prime Kethver. War Prime, can you contact your ships? Can you tell them what we've learned? Here, the alien leader looked at her for a long moment. You would trust me to speak to my fleet? After I came here to destroy your world? Yes, Kate said without hesitation. Because now you understand. We're not your enemies. We're just different. Kethver activated his own communicator with shaking hands. When his fleet commander answered, the War Prime spoke in the grinding language of his people. Kate could not understand the words, but she could hear the wonder in his voice. After several minutes, Kethvar ended the transmission and looked at Kate. I have told them what I have seen. The human admiral ate the death spores and lived. She consumed the poison that has killed thousands of our people, and it did not harm her. What did they say? Kate asked. They do not believe me, Kethver replied. But they are willing to stop shooting while we talk. Dr. Blake was already contacting the human fleet. Admiral Sullivan to all ships. Cease fire. I repeat, cease fire. We have a breakthrough. Kate looked around the damaged cargo bay. Humans and aliens sat together, no longer enemies, but not yet friends. The war that had started with a misunderstanding about mushrooms was ending with the simple act of eating lunch. War Prime, Kate said, we have a lot to talk about. But first, let's get you and your people to a place where you can breathe clean air. As the rescue ships arrived from both fleets, Kate realized that the war was not really over. There would be months of negotiations, years of building trust, and decades of learning to live together. But the killing had stopped. The moment she had eaten that contaminated food, the war had changed from a fight to the death into a chance for understanding. The mushrooms that had started the war would now become the foundation for peace. It all began with a simple truth. What kills one species might be food for another. 6 months had passed since the moment that changed everything. Kate Sullivan stood in the observation deck of the space station New Harmony, watching ships from both human and Zephyrian fleets dock together. The station was built where the old battleground had been, a symbol of how war could become peace. Kate was no longer an admiral. Her new title was Director of Interspecies Relations, which meant she spent most of her time in meetings instead of on starships. But she did not mind. Every meeting brought humans and aliens closer to understanding each other. Director Sullivan, said a voice behind her. Kate turned to see War Prime Kethver approaching. He was not called War Prime anymore. Now his title was Peace Prime, which he wore like a badge of honor. Peace Prime, Kate said with a smile. How? Are the new quarters working out for your people? Very well, Kethver replied. The air filtration systems you designed keep our living areas free of mushroom spores. My warriors can breathe easily for the first time since we entered human space. Kate nodded. The air filtration had been Dr. Blake's idea. He had designed special systems that could clean the air of any spores that might harm aliens while still allowing humans to live normally. It was a simple solution to a complex problem. And how are the food experiments going? Kate asked. Kethver made a sound that Kate had learned was Zephyrian laughter. Dr. Blake continues to amaze us. Yesterday, he showed us that human coffee beans are also toxic to most alien species. He drank 3 cups while my scientists watched in fear. Kate laughed too. Dr. Blake had become something of a celebrity among the aliens. His ability to consume things that would kill them made him seem like a friendly monster. The Zephyrians were fascinated by human biology and wanted to learn everything they could about it. "Director," said another voice. Kate turned to see Captain Lisa Parker approaching. Lisa was now in charge of the Joint Exploration Program, leading mixed crews of humans and aliens to discover new worlds. "Captain Parker," Kate said, "how did the mission to Proxima 7 go?" "Better than expected," Lisa replied. "We found 3 new species, all of them friendly. But we also found something else. The mushroom plague has spread to that system too." Kate felt her smile fade. The mushrooms were still a problem. They continued to grow and spread, making planets uninhabitable for most alien species. But now, instead of being a weapon of war, they had become a challenge for cooperation. "How bad is it?" Kate asked. "Bad enough that the local species evacuated 2 planets," Lisa said. "But the good news is that our human teams can go in and start cleanup operations. The mushrooms don't hurt us, so we can work in areas that are deadly to everyone else." This had become the new reality. Humans were the only species that could safely handle the mushroom plague. They could land on infected worlds, collect samples, and work to contain the spread. What had once made them seem like biological weapons now made them valuable allies. "Dr. Blake wants to see you," Lisa added. "He's in the main laboratory with some exciting news." Kate and Cuthbert walked together through the corridors of New Harmony. The station was a marvel of cooperation. Human and alien workers labored side by side, building something that neither species could have created alone. They found Dr. Blake in his laboratory, surrounded by glowing samples and alien equipment. He looked up when they entered, his face bright with excitement. "Director Peace Prime, you have to see this," he said, holding up a small container. Inside, Kate could see mushroom spores, but these ones were different. Instead of the deadly blue glow, they gave off a soft green light. "What are they?" Kate asked. "Modified spores," Blake replied. "We've been working with Zephyrian bioengineers to change the mushrooms. These new ones are harmless to aliens, but still edible for humans." Cuthbert leaned closer to examine the container. "You mean the death spores can be made safe?" "Better than safe," Blake said. "These modified mushrooms have medical properties. They can cure diseases that affect most alien species. The same toxins that once killed your people can now save them." Kate stared at the glowing spores. "Are you saying we can turn the plague into medicine?" "Exactly," Blake said. "We're calling it the Harmony Project. Human teams will go to infected worlds, harvest the mushrooms, and modify them into medicine. What was once a weapon of destruction becomes a tool for healing." Over the following weeks, Kate watched the Harmony Project take shape. Human workers, immune to the mushroom toxins, traveled to infected worlds and collected samples. Zephyrian bioengineers worked with human scientists to modify the deadly spores into life-saving medicine. The first successful treatment was on a Zephyrian colony world where a plague had been killing thousands. Human teams landed on the infected planet, harvested the mushrooms, and processed them into medicine. Within days, the dying aliens were recovering. Word of the success spread throughout the galaxy. Other alien species, who had been afraid of both humans and the mushroom plague, began to reach out for help. Humans went from being feared as biological weapons to being welcomed as healers and protectors. Kate found herself in the strange position of being a diplomat to species she had never heard of before the war. Each new contact brought new challenges, but also new opportunities for cooperation. "Director," said Amy Chun, who had become Kate's assistant after the war ended, "we have a message from the Galactic Council." They want to invite Earth to join as a member species. Kate looked up from her reports. The Galactic Council was the closest thing to a government that existed among the star-traveling species. For humans to be invited to join was a great honor. What's the catch? Kate asked. They want us to take responsibility for managing the mushroom plague throughout the galaxy, Amy replied. Basically, they want humans to be the galaxy's cleanup crew. Kate thought about it. Humans would be going to dangerous worlds, dealing with toxic environments, and risking their lives to clean up a mess that started by accident. But they would also be helping other species and building relationships throughout the galaxy. Tell them yes, Kate said. But we have conditions. We want full support for our research programs, and we want other species to help with the work. When it's safe for them. The signing ceremony took place on New Harmony a month later. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to watch humans officially join the galactic community. Kate stood at the podium, looking out at the crowd of aliens and humans. 6 months ago, she said, we were at war because we didn't understand each other. Today, we're working together to solve problems that no single species could handle alone. She paused and looked at Peace Prime Kethfer, who was sitting in the front row. The war started when aliens saw humans as biological weapons. It ended when they saw us as we really are, survivors who can help others survive too. After the ceremony, Kate found herself back in the observation deck where this part of her journey had begun. She was joined by Dr. Blake, Captain Parker, and Peace Prime. Kethfer, so what's next? Lisa asked. The galaxy is full of dangerous places and strange problems, Kate replied. But now we know that different doesn't mean enemy. It just means we each bring something unique to the table. Dr. Blake held up a new sample container. Speaking of unique, wait until you see what we found on Kepler 186f, mushrooms that glow in the dark and can process radiation into breathable air. Kethfer made his laughing sound again. Let me guess. They're deadly to aliens, but humans can eat them? Actually, Blake said with a grin, they taste pretty good with a little salt. Kate looked out at the stars, where human and alien ships traveled together toward new worlds and new discoveries. The war that had started with fear and misunderstanding had become a partnership based on trust and cooperation. The mushrooms still grew on distant worlds, still deadly to most species, but harmless to humans. But now, instead of being a source of conflict, they were a bridge between species. They were proof that what makes one species weak can make another strong, and that differences can be the foundation for friendship. The war was over. The peace had just begun. And somewhere in the galaxy, new species were discovering that the strange humans who could eat poison might just be the best allies they could ever hope to find. Kate smiled as she watched the stars. The future was full of challenges, but for the first time in years, she was looking forward to meeting them.